Thank you for joining us for another informative Thursday edition of Jamaica Magazine. I'm your host, Adrian Atkinson. We are celebrating International Week of the Deaf People. And like me, maybe you're interested in learning sign language. Well, you will want to stick around for today's show as we uncover stories and interesting discoveries packaged just for your entertainment. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back after the news.
Good day, I'm Stephen McHugh, and this is your JIS News for Thursday, September 22. Jamaicans who will be engaged in this year's Christmas work program are to be paid through the Link digital wallet. The Link app allows persons to receive payments online using a smartphone or computer. Minister of Finance and the Public Service, Dr. Nigel Clark, says the move is part of a pilot program to encourage greater take-up of the Jamaica Central Bank digital currency, JAMDEX. JAMDEX cashless payments are made through the Link app offered by the National Commercial Bank. Minister Clark adds that the cashless payments will increase efficiency in the disbursement of funds to Christmas workers while reducing costs to the government. Data gathered from the pilot will inform government's transition to a digital society.
Government, as I said, wants to see the digital economy and society take hold because that is the future. And there are a lot of transactions that take place today, payments that are cash-based, which is suboptimal. And it's cash-based just because that is today the easiest way to get it done. And I think of things like some of the work programs, right, where people work at Christmas time and they make the place look good, and the government, through distribution mechanisms, all of those thousands and thousands of persons are paid cash.
Come September 30, the Ministry of Tourism will be launching an innovation-based tourism incubator. The launch coincides with the observation of Tourism Awareness Week, which is to be held from September 25 to October 1 under the theme Rethinking Tourism. At a recent JIS think tank, Portfolio Minister Edmund Bartlett said the incubator will be executed by way of a boot camp. Participants' new and innovative ideas will be incentivized through a combination of public and private funding. Minister Bartlett says the facility's establishment is part of the ministry's overall policy direction to incorporate more young people in the sector.
If a young person has come up with a new idea about some process in tourism or how to do a particular chore at a hotel better, or how to create an added value to an attraction which we now have, we can pair them with the particular entrepreneurial group. We can tie them to the hotel, we can tie them to the particular attraction, we can tie them to the technology that is giving rise to the innovative thoughts that they have generated.
In other news, a minister with responsibility for information, Robert Morgan, says the rollout of the sixth form pathway program for the new school year has so far been successful. He says assessment by the Education Ministry revealed that there were over 20,000 spaces in the system that could be used for the program. These include spaces in secondary schools and tertiary institutions with which partnerships have been forged.
Based on the pictures that we're seeing and based on the reports we're seeing from schools all across the island, thousands of students have taken up the opportunity.
Minister Morgan was speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing. He said there's been an overwhelming interest among parents and educational institutions to have students participate in the sixth form pathway program. To this end, government has provided resources in the form of grants and other assistance to accommodate the students. Minister Morgan also disclosed that adjustments have been made to the program following stakeholder consultations.
I think those adjustments have benefited the students this year, but there will be further adjustments as we continue to engage with the stakeholders to make it even better next year.
And while at Wednesday's post-cabinet meeting, Minister Morgan informed that Cabinet has given approval for the construction of a multi-purpose facility at the Overseas Examinations Commission, OEC.
The permission was given for the establishment of this facility at the organization's Manhattan Road, Kingston 5 property, at an estimated cost of $870 million.
The OEC is the administrative body responsible for the sitting of secondary and professional level examinations locally and within the region. Government will be moving to reduce the disposal of cases in the High Court Civil Division from an average of 49.57 months to 24 months. Chief Justice Brian Sykes, who made the announcement recently, says the initiative, which will start in January 2023, is part of efforts to boost the efficiency of the judicial system. As part of those plans, the Chief Justice says mandatory mediation in the courts will be removed.
Not that mediation is a bad thing, but the fact of the matter is that if we're going to be a data-driven organization, we have to go with the data. The data is telling us that when some 3,000 cases that were referred under the mandatory system between 2017 and 2019, only 34% were settled at mediation.
Justice Sykes says the transformation will see the introduction of a docket system, the increased use of oral judgments, and improved pre-trial preparation. A review of the selection process for judges and a performance-based job description for all posts will also be undertaken. And finally, 24 farmers from the Needham Penn Farmers Association in St. Thomas are now certified in operating their farms as a business. The 8-week training program was done in partnership between the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, RADA, and the Commonwealth of Learning Organization. Participants were instructed on record keeping, marketing, post-harvest management, cost of production, and formalizing a business. In addition to the distribution of water tanks, seeds, and fertilizer, the farmers will continue to benefit from RADA's technical and extension services. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Stephen McHugh. Thanks for watching.
Crime and violence is infecting our youth. We must work together to rescue them from the gangs, engage them in productive activities, and safeguard Jamaica's future.
His bright smile will light up a room, and his compelling intellect is something you will have to see for yourself. It's the story of a young man with a bright future.
For me, I always had to live with the consequence that I may not be able to walk again after a fracture or be the same or basically do things like, oh, everyone else does it. My name is Arva McKellop and I have osteogenesis imperfecta, also known as brittle bone. In short, it basically means that your bones are a lot easier to break than a normal person, and it makes everyday things more challenging for you. My condition of brittle bone is rather mild compared to others, but it's still very serious. Some of the characteristics of my brittle bone is that my sclera is slightly blue, and I'm also rather short, and I also had bow leg, but that was corrected in grade 7. My father has the condition, so my family expected that I would also have the condition. Over the years, they've rather treated me like a member of the family, really, no different than anyone else.
But despite his family's efforts to protect and shield him, 18-year-old Orville has had his fair share of fractures over the years.
So I'm a student at the Jonathan Grant High School, and in the 7th grade, my first major accident occurred. I had to do a replacement surgery to replace the pins that were placed in my leg when I was around 4. And after that, during my time recovering, I tripped and fell and I broke my right femur and had to be hospitalized again. It was in the 8th grade when I tripped and fell in a class and broke both my left and right thigh. When you're recovering from a major surgery, you often get lost in boredom. You don't have much to do, so during that time I experimented, and graphic design was one of those things I experimented with, and over time it just grew into something more than just my hobby. I have very generous friends, I guess you could say, and they're very dedicated, so they would come visit me like 3 times for the week and bring notes to me so I could get them, and just to overall just to cheer me up.
And when it was time for Orville to return to school, he had the right support and frame of mind to resume his duties as a student.
My mom has been my greatest supporter throughout my time recovering and during my exams. She supports me by making sure on a daily basis I have everything I need for school, despite the cost or how hard it might be to get it. I had many friends. Sometimes it would be like a tug of war to see who would carry my bag today, who would carry my crutches today, and really was more of a race to see who would be able to carry me up the stairs first. I had to take a lot of time out and stop doing many of the things I would do in my extra time and dedicate most of my time towards studying. I mostly study when I get here at school, since I live in a rather noisy environment, so I'd rather get here super early so I can study until it's time for classes. Usually I'd get here by 9 o'clock, but my classes start at 12:20 to be exact.
Fast forward to a few years later, when the hard work, determination, and support of his friends and family have paid off. Orville has emerged as the top student of the graduating class of 2019 at Jonathan Grant High School.
I managed to get 10 subjects in the category of 4 1s and 6 2s. I mainly did business subjects and visual arts, along with the mandatory maths, English, and IT, and 3 others. Being the top student of the graduating class of 2019 is quite a I wish I could say it was unexpected, but I was being hyped up the entire time by my friends. Who were like, yeah, you're gonna get it.
I'm happy that I got to see him go through his struggles and whatever he had to go through, and he still came out on top. He fell and he got back up. Orville is he's a great person, and I am motivated by him because he perseveres. He keeps pushing through regardless of his obstacles, and that is a great motivator. I'm happy that I stuck to him.
The aspiring chartered accountant and graphic artist, who has received a full scholarship from the school to attend sixth form, vows to continue to excel in his future endeavors.
I plan on satisfying the requirements of the scholarship by giving it my best in terms of my academic and extracurricular performances during my time here. As it pertains to where I would like to go after sixth form, preferably like to go to either the University of the West Indies or UTech to pursue my career in accounting. I would just like to say thank you to each and everyone that has supported me throughout the years, even in the smallest way possible, because each and every one of you and your support, it really does matter to me.
When I reach the next part, I show them cut it. Talking about that, listen to this. Pen sends a message. Disaster do happens. Be prepared. The municipal corporation reminds us of hurricane, earthquake, flooding, you name it, and preparedness.
Mommy, we really have to take this thing seriously.
Mommy, where's the emergency shelters?
Samir.
Primary school, churches, community centers. Know your nearest emergency shelter. Protect your family during any natural disaster. Be prepared. Visit the ODPEM website at odpem.org.jm to find the shelter listing for your parish. Know your emergency shelters.
There's no limit on working towards the dreams and visions you can imagine. One person who has lived this profoundly is our first national hero, the Right Excellent Marcus Mosiah Garvey. He broke through the barriers of society to emerge as a respected entrepreneur, activist, author, and public speaker. Today, his legacy is helping to forge new paths for others.
Marcus Garvey attempted to take a company public on the New York Stock Exchange in the 1930s. In fact, he did. He didn't limit himself in any way. And it is fitting to name the scholarship after him, because in establishing the scholarship, it's very important you send a signal of intent with how you curate the scholarship, how you name it. And there was no choice in my mind that the appropriate name for the scholarship was the Marcus Garvey Public Sector Graduate Scholarship, after our first national hero.
I think this is an extremely visionary program. My father believed in self-development and self-reliance, and you can only develop appropriately if you have the requisite knowledge and training and experience. So I'm very, very pleased that my father's name was chosen to be attached to this scholarship.
We introduced the scholarship program aimed at a target audience of public sector employees who demonstrated the kind of acumen to take on leadership roles, particularly in some thematic areas, policy development, economic management, climate change, law, public policy development generally.
The Marcus Garvey Public Sector Graduate Scholarship Program was launched in 2020. This year, 14 public sector workers will be pursuing postgraduate studies at leading universities both locally and internationally.
We're very impressed with their talent, their passion, their ambition, and their plans for Jamaica. My confidence in Jamaica's future, I must tell you, was strengthened and renewed as I recognize that we have some very bright, smart, sharp young people in this country.
The Marcus Garvey Public Sector Graduate Scholarship Program funds 100% of the tuition costs for recipients and is expected to continue up until 2025. To be eligible, you must be a Jamaican national or citizen, a public sector employee, whether permanently appointed, temporary, or on contract with at least 2 years continuous service. You must have a bachelor's degree from an accredited college or university and be under 45 years old at the time of application. The first 7 recipients of the 2022 Marcus Garvey Public Sector Graduate Scholarship Program are Anisha Lancaster, Astrid Batchelor, Shanique Graham, Gabriel MacLeod, Teresa McDaniel, Anastasia Rose, and Simone Murray.
I was very humbled that the Jamaican people would choose to invest in me, and I will do my extreme best in my course of study because I know that I must impact changes within the Ministry of National Security.
Now, the Marcus Garvey Public Sector Graduate Program is a significant initiative demonstrating the government's commitment to build the organizational capacity of the public service. At the core of the scholarship initiative is the recognition that signals the government of Jamaica's clear commitment to investing in human capital development and its intention to build in a culture of continuous learning.
Marcus Garvey also said, always try to associate with people from whom you can learn something or the knowledge that you want in this world, and all you have to do is go and seek it.
Can you walk in my shoes? Will you listen to my cry?
If you believe, you will achieve.
Someday I must reach my dream, born to fly.
Can you walk?
Walk in my shoes.
And will you listen
to my cries? One day I must reach my dream.
The remaining 7 of 14 recipients are Kenvoy Groves, Natalie Campbell Forbes, Elvis Bennett, Latoya Richards Franklin, Kensley Shea, Daniela Utah, and Mark Davis.
It will have a tremendous impact on my professional life. I can have greater impact on policy decision, and I'll be able to have more say in how public sector governance systems are created and public policy are administered. So I'm grateful for that opportunity.
We have a Jamaica whose influence is in the Americas, is in Europe, is in Africa, and around the world. And I want them to carry that in their heart and let that resonate in your bosom every time you take up your book to study. You're remembering Marcus Garvey and what he did for this country and for your race. And you have gotten the opportunity to walk in that legacy.
We are indeed grateful for this opportunity. Let us accomplish what we will. Study hard, work diligently and creatively as we pledge the wisdom and courage of our minds and the strength and vigor of our bodies in the service of our fellow citizens, so that Jamaica may, under God, increase in beauty, fellowship, and prosperity, and play her part in advancing the welfare of the whole human race.
Respect for myself and others. Self-discipline means there's a right way to conflict resolution. Kindness and compassion say being nice is normal. Honesty and integrity are badges of honor. Yes, we choose values for life. Have you taken the time to know them? Yes, those persons you might perceive in the wrong way, all because you have not learned the language of respect.
Words can hurt, especially for those among us with a disability, each with their own condition, which may make them stand out, but should in no way have them left out. Hurtful language, intentional or not, can make people feel excluded and be a barrier to inclusion, equality, and equity. A disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, or activities. A disability is not a human being or group of people. With that understanding, it is never respectful to say a disabled person or the disabled. In addition, do not use the term impaired. These words do not reflect the individuality, equality, or dignity of people with disabilities.
Persons who use wheelchairs, just that, you use a wheelchair. The wheelchair happens to be your legs, you know, and that is fine. The shoes help me to move around, and my slippers and so on, and the wheelchair helps somebody else to move around.
The word itself, disability, is acceptable as it identifies the condition of a group of people. But when referring to a person one-on-one, it is best to use his or her name. If you don't know the individual's name, the person first terminology is what should be used, because the person is more important than his or her disability.
So it's not the epileptic, it is a person with epilepsy, or the person with autism, the child with autism, and so on and so forth.
When you interact with persons with disabilities, being respectful in your language is not the politically correct thing to do, it's simply the correct thing to do.
People with disabilities or the person with a disability. Persons who use a wheelchair. Wheelchair user. Intellectual disability or intellectually disabled. Person with a mental health disability. Someone living with a specific disability or illness.
In addition, when talking about places with accommodations for people with disabilities, use the term accessible. Do not use disabled or handicapped. For example, it is proper to say accessible parking space or an accessible pathway. And consider this. If you refer to someone without a disability as normal, what does that make the person with a disability? Over time, the use of language and words describing persons with disabilities have changed. As we all seek acceptance and respect, we should do our best to keep updated on the terminologies that do not dehumanize each other. If in doubt, ask. That man or woman with a disability will be happy to tell you what he or she is comfortable with being called. This fosters respect, tolerance, and prevents unnecessary embarrassment. When speaking with or of a particular group of persons with a disability, choose your words wisely.
I encourage the deaf children to have deaf pride, to know that they can. You are on the same level as a hearing person. It doesn't matter that you can't hear. You have a lot of deaf adults who are successful, and you can achieve. You can get the education that you want, you can do anything that you want, you can achieve. Don't feel like you can't because you're deaf.
In believing that nothing is impossible, I have been able to culture a very positive attitude to life, and that positive attitude has worked for me, and I am confident it will work for others. I would want to say to persons with vision impairment and disabilities that it is critical that they become tooled or retooled with the appropriate technologies that can help to drive the way forward so that they can accomplish their vision and their goals.
Children with disabilities, whether you have CP or not, I strongly believe that you have a purpose. My disability has taught me that when it says the sky is the limit, it is. There are times when you're going to fall, but what is to stop you from rising?
In a diverse society, we must treat each other with respect, despite our differences. You can find more content like this on our website, jis.gov.jm. Also, don't forget to let us know your thoughts about today's show or any of our programs by sending us an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm. Be sure to join us again tomorrow when we'll bring you another informative program. On behalf of the entire production team, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Thank you so much for watching.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.